Imagine ordering a car online, trusting every spec and promise, only to discover it couldn't even perform as advertised. Now scale that nightmare up to an airline buying one of the largest, most expensive airplanes in the world. This is the story of how Emirates, one of the globe's leading airlines, uncovered a shocking deception by Airbus, a deception that could have cost billions. Setting the stage, Emirates is known for its luxury, innovation, and uncompromising standards. When they signed contracts for Airbus aircraft, they weren't just buying planes, they were buying promises. Promises of speed, fuel efficiency, and performance that would shape the airline's future. But behind the polished brochures and technical presentations, something wasn't quite right. Airbus, a European aerospace giant, had made bold claims about the performance of their aircraft. Specs on paper looked flawless. Fuel consumption, minimal. Range, record-breaking. Payload, impressive. For an airline like Emirates, these numbers weren't just details, they were mission-critical. Every calculation affected routes, ticket pricing, and ultimately profit. The red flags appear, but as Emirates began testing and analyzing their new fleet, subtle red flags started appearing. Operational performance wasn't matching the glossy brochures. Fuel burn was higher than promised, and range limitations meant some routes had to be recalculated. The numbers didn't lie, but Airbus's claims did not match reality. Emirates didn't jump to conclusions. They are meticulous. Every claim was scrutinized, every flight test recorded, every engine reading analyzed. And what they discovered was alarming. Airbus had overstated several critical specifications, particularly around fuel efficiency and payload capabilities. In an industry where even a single percentage point can cost millions, this was a huge deal. Digging deeper, rather than accepting explanations or technical jargon, Emirates launched a full-scale internal investigation. Engineers collaborated with data analysts and flight test pilots to cross-check every figure. They examined performance across multiple flights, different routes, and varying passenger loads. And the results consistently told the same story. Airbus's aircraft were not delivering on their promises. This wasn't just a minor oversight, it was a potential breach of trust. Emirates had made multi-billion-dollar commitments based on specifications that turned out to be inflated. For an airline, this can impact everything from ticket pricing strategies to maintenance schedules, and even long-term fleet planning. Confrontation with Airbus. Armed with irrefutable data, Emirates approached Airbus. But confronting a major aerospace company isn't simple. Airbus, like many corporations, initially tried to downplay the discrepancies, suggesting the differences were within acceptable tolerances. But Emirates knew better. They had the flight data, the calculations, and expert analysis to prove otherwise. The negotiations were intense. Emirates had leverage, big leverage. Airbus couldn't afford a public scandal involving one of the world's most prestigious airlines. Behind closed doors, the discussions weren't just about correcting the specs. They were about trust, reputation, and accountability on a scale few outside the industry could truly understand. The stakes, think about it, for Emirates, every extra gallon of fuel burned across hundreds of flights per day translates into millions of dollars of lost revenue annually. Range limitations could force unscheduled stopovers, reducing operational efficiency and passenger satisfaction. For Airbus, the stakes were equally high. A breach of trust with Emirates could ripple across the global aviation market, affecting stock prices, contracts, and their reputation for reliability. What makes this story extraordinary isn't just the numbers. It's the meticulous approach Emirates took to uncover the truth. They weren't just passive buyers. They became investigators, analysts, and negotiators, ensuring that every claim was backed by evidence. Building tension. And this is where it gets even more fascinating. Emirates didn't just uncover the discrepancies. They documented them to perfection. Every flight log, every engine reading, every minor variation from promised performance became a piece of evidence in a high-stakes game of corporate accountability. It's almost like a thriller, but instead of spies or heists, this was about jets, billions of dollars, and one airline refusing to settle for less than what they were promised. By the time the confrontation escalated, Airbus knew they were dealing with a company that wouldn't back down, a company whose standards were as high as their reputation. With irrefutable data in hand, Emirates escalated the issue to the highest levels within Airbus. This wasn't just about numbers anymore, it was about credibility. For Airbus, the risk of losing face with one of the world's most influential airlines was enormous. One wrong move could damage relationships with other carriers, affect stock valuations, and trigger industry-wide scrutiny. Emirates had positioned themselves perfectly. They weren't just angry customers. They were knowledgeable, prepared, and uncompromising. Every claim from Airbus had already been meticulously analyzed and documented. The airline had effectively turned the tables, forcing the aerospace giant into a corner. Airbus breaks its silence. Faced with mounting evidence, Airbus could no longer hide behind technical jargon or vague reassurances. The company acknowledged discrepancies in certain performance metrics and promised to take corrective action. But more than that, they had to rebuild trust, not just with Emirates, but with the entire aviation community watching closely. Emirates' insistence on transparency set a new standard in the industry. This confrontation forced Airbus to revise their internal testing processes and strengthen their quality control measures. It wasn't just a victory for Emirates, it was a wake-up call for all airlines. Never take manufacturer claims at face value. The aftermath and industry impact. After months of negotiations and recalibrations, Emirates emerged stronger. The airline adjusted its operational strategies based on the corrected specs and optimized routes, ensuring maximum efficiency and minimal disruptions. Passengers continued to enjoy the luxurious experience Emirates is famous for, while the airline maintained its reputation as a data-driven, no-compromise leader in aviation. For Airbus, the lesson was just as stark. Transparency isn't optional in aviation, it's a non-negotiable requirement. Overstating specifications might seem like a minor slip in the boardroom, but when billions of dollars, international reputations, and passenger safety are at stake, it becomes a major liability. The Emirates case became a benchmark for accountability, showing that even industry giants must answer to their clients when performance falls short. More than just numbers, what's often overlooked in stories like this is the human element. The pilots relying on accurate fuel calculations, the engineers designing maintenance schedules, and even the passengers expecting safe, timely flights, all were impacted by inflated specs. Emirates' relentless pursuit of truth wasn't just about dollars. It was about people, safety, and the promise of excellence. Behind every technical dispute lies a story of dedication, intelligence, and resilience. Emirates didn't just challenge Airbus, they set a global example for accountability, showing that vigilance and expertise can safeguard both business and human interests. So the next time you board an Emirates flight and settle into your seat, remember, every mile flown, every gallon of fuel used, and every smooth landing is backed by years of meticulous testing, analysis, and accountability. The story of Emirates catching Airbus in their exaggerations isn't just an aviation tale. It's a lesson in diligence, integrity, and the power of refusing to accept good enough. In the world of aviation, trust is everything. And Emirates proved that when it comes to billion-dollar investments, you don't just fly, you verify. Let's keep flying higher. If you enjoyed this deep dive into one of aviation's most jaw-dropping corporate battles, hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more incredible stories from the skies.